Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about pushing beyond the envelope of being a dungeon master, pushing beyond the traditional envelope, right? I believe this is fully what Gary Gygax meant, and failing to improve your players, you as a dungeon master, failing to improve your dungeon performers, your Dungeons and Dragons players. I call them dungeon performers for many reasons. Why you should be failing to improve your Dungeons and Dragons performers as a dungeon master. Let's get into this. All right, so my channel is dedicated to the idea that Dungeons and Dragons is not now and never was a game. I believe that Gary Gygax was a polymath, a once in 5 millennia human who understood better than any other human how, in a secular manner, to help humans, right? And I think, and like a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm going to help people. I'm going to write it in a self-help book." Self-help books don't help anybody, right? Like nobody reads them. People feel ashamed to go get them off the shelf. They're horrible trajectories for change. But I think that Gary Gygax disguised a powerful identity engine, a powerful achievement engine, a powerful way to understand ourselves and others in Dungeons and Dragons, right? And so I'm dedicated to telling you as a dungeon master, don't just set up the pins and let your players knock them down, right? You're going to have players show up to cut goblins in half. And what I'm telling you is if you're using Dungeons and Dragons as Gary designed it, in my humble opinion, they'll be cutting their deficiencies in half, right? But this is very hard, right? And what if you fail? Well, you should be failing. Why do I believe that? Apple TV's show Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. This show is horrible in execution, but it is brilliant in scope and in concept, okay? Godzilla and the kaiju are incredibly important analogies for humanity. And we can learn a lot from them, right? And in Godzilla -1, understanding Godzilla as a metaphor is very direct, right? But Monarch is absolutely terribly executed. It's really hard to when you look at Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, you see writers who had paid millions, directors who had paid millions, actors who were paid millions to produce something that is an empty shell of meaning. They don't, basically, Apple TV had no idea what to do with Godzilla, right? Or with any of the kaiju connected to Godzilla, right? And it's a mishmash mess, right? But I've watched every episode and I've loved it. And the reason why is they're failing to do something noble. And this is noble. Monarch is important. It is very important that America does not cease to try to understand Godzilla. And it's okay to fail at it, right? So I'd much rather see Apple spend millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to make a good Godzilla show and failing. Because if you make a good Godzilla show, it means through art, America will begin to heal its wounds with the Japanese people for one of our greatest mistakes, right? Like for taking an action that many of us wish we did not have to take, right? So there's this cultural discussion happening between Japan and America, and it's happening through Godzilla. It happened very directly through Godzilla -1, and it's failing to happen in Monarch. But even the attempt to make Monarch and for Americans to understand what Godzilla is at the corporate and cultural level is very important. You should be failing to improve your players because you're not going to succeed until you've failed a few times. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.